All right, let's dive into something that's probably bugged you at some point. Why are language classes, well, the way they are? It turns out we've been on this centuries long quest to find the perfect way to learn, and the story behind it is full of some pretty wild surprises.
I mean, think back. Does it hit close to home? Why was it all about memorizing verb charts? Or maybe for you, it was all conversation with almost zero grammar. Well, the answer to that actually lies in a surprisingly dramatic history.
And this is not a new problem. For hundreds of years, educators, psychologists, you name it, they've all been trying to crack the code on how we really truly learn a new language.
And that journey has taken some incredible turns, taking us from these really dusty, silent classrooms all the way to rooms filled with music and movement. So let's start at the very beginning. Our story kicks off way, way back with a method that was so powerful it completely dominated language education for over 300 years. So if you've ever had to just chant verb conjugations over and over again or translate these really dense, awkward sentences, you've had a taste of the grammar translation method. It was super rigid, a very step-by-step process. Learn the parts, learn the rules, and then painstakingly piece them all together. But where did this idea even come from? Well, here's the thing. It was never designed to help you order a coffee in Paris. It was actually modeled on how medieval scholars learned dead languages, like Latin and Greek, which they did by analyzing ancient texts. The goal was always about reading, never about speaking. And this, of course, led to a massive, and frankly, pretty predictable flaw. You could have students who were grammar experts, who could dissect a sentence perfectly on paper. But if you put them in a real, live conversation, they were often completely lost. But then something happened. One professor's personal failure sparked an epiphany that would go on to revolutionize language teaching completely. Let's see how that went down. So this is François Gouin. He decided he wanted to learn German. So he did what any good academic of his time would do, right? He moved to Germany and basically applied the grammar translation method to himself. He even memorized an entire book of German grammar and vocabulary. After all that incredible work, he went back to France, totally unable to speak or understand German. But what really stunned him was finding his little 3-year-old nephew, who was just learning to talk, was already more fluent in French than he was in German. And that's when it hit him, his big epiphany. Our whole approach to teaching language was completely backwards. He realized the key wasn't reading books and memorizing rules. Nope, it was what his nephew did naturally, just listening. He argued that we acquire language through our ears, through sound, making the ear, not the eye, the true gateway to learning a new language. Gouin's insight just blew the doors wide open. Suddenly, the 20th century saw this explosion of creative, brain-based, and sometimes, let's be honest, frankly bizarre new methods for teaching languages. First up, we've got something called total physical response, or TPR. It was developed by a psychologist named James J. Asher, and it's built on this really fascinating idea about how our brains are wired. So Asher believed that we have to first decode language through the right side of our brain. That's the side that handles physical action, before the left side of our brain is even ready to produce speech. A lesson kind of feels like a game of Simon Says. The whole goal is totally stress-free learning by connecting words directly to actions, just like a little kid does. And believe me, the ideas only got more creative from there. Next up is a method called Suggestopedia, developed by a Bulgarian educator, Georgy Lozanov, who really wanted to tap into our brain's hidden potential. A Suggestopedia classroom was like nothing else. Lozanov was convinced that by using deep relaxation, specific kinds of Baroque music, and even theatrical performances, he could lull students into this calm, hyper-receptive state. The theory was, in this state, they could absorb huge amounts of vocabulary, almost effortlessly. It was all about creating the perfect vibe for learning. So, okay, after this whole journey from silent, rigid grammar rules to learning with music and movement, where does that actually leave us today? I mean, which method won? Well, what's so fascinating is that no single method was ever crowned the ultimate champion. As you can see from this timeline, each new idea just added another tool to this rich, varied toolbox that modern teachers have today. So the big takeaway really is this. The best teaching today isn't about rigidly following just one single method. It's about blending them. A really great teacher might use some direct grammar explanation,
but then mix in some fun, physical TPR activities and maybe even use music to create a dynamic class that really works for everyone.
And that leaves us with one last big thought. We've come so far, but now we have these incredible tools like AI tutors and instant translation right in our pockets. As this technology just keeps getting better and better, what do you think the next chapter in this incredible quest is going to look like?